Hi, everyone, and welcome back to part two of our discussion on One Dark Window, where we're going to go into details of the book and just the overall thoughts and feelings about certain plot holes and just random things, just how we normally discuss books after we're done reading them. So I know the first thing that Brittany and I want to discuss are the Providence cards. What are they? How
Yeah.
many are they? What do they do? Like what power do you get if you use them? If you abuse the power, what are your consequences, right? So we're going to dive into that. Brittany's actually going to go over all the Providence cards for us, and we're going to just kind of get this conversation rolling.
All right. You ready?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
So yeah. So these
I'm ready.
Providence cards, each give its own type of magic granted to the user while taking a piece of the user, right? So it's a give and take. And we'll start out with the 12 Black Horse cards. These are held exclusively by the elite guard, which is the Desters, right? So
Okay,
this grants.
So let's what are a Destrier?
So that's like the I guess you could say the elite guard to the king. They hunt these people down, the fighters, the guards.
The magic police. The popo.
Yeah,
the magic
pretty
popo.
much. Which.
Okay, we've lost Brittany here real quick. We've lost her audio, so I'll kind of fill in while she's lost her audio real quick. I think her kids are coming in to talk to her because it's the evening where she lives.
Yes.
So the Black Horse card, the Destriers use those, and they are essentially the magic popos, the magic hawks, whatever you want to call them, right? They basically keep law and order, and magic is a no-no. So unless you have a card to use the power, you are not allowed to use magic. Those who would have magic were children who were infected with the infection and survived and have a natural magic as a consequence of that. And so their job is to find those kids or adults if they've gone under the radar for a while, take them to the castle and unalive them. Unless they benefit
or even position so they could see what's going on and they try to test them out or whatever.
So the only ones who survive are those who are beneficial to the king, which is not
right. Or if it's essentially what can he gain from that, right? Like if he gets something from it, he's going to take from it.
Exactly.
So the next one would be 11 golden card. This is the golden egg cards, right? So this grants great wealth, lead to an all-consuming greed, essentially. So it's giving you money, but then you become this greedy, ugly person. So as you could see how that theme is feeding, what it takes from you is the opposite of what it's giving you. So it's giving you the negative effect of what it gave you. So the prophet cards, these offer glimpses of the future, right? So they'll give you foresight. You could render it user helpless to change the future, when they use it too much, right? So eventually they're kind of helpless in the end. There's nothing they could do to change anything. And this kind of affects who they are as a person and, how that can kind of play into it.
Well, imagine seeing like a loved one die, like in a future thing, and you're going to try to prevent them from dying. Like at this point, you can't prevent that. It's almost like the card is showing you like, hey, this is set in stone and you're not going to
Like there's nothing you could do about it. You're kind of stuck with,
exactly.
So do you really want to know what's going to happen? Exactly. And then you have the white eagle cards. You're talking about gaining courage and being this courageous person, but then you become this extremely fearful person. So you're probably worse off than where you started at the end of it.
Oh yeah, because it'll make you from courage to being a coward.
Yeah. So did you really help yourself in the end? And And I know when it comes to the mating cards, which is what I'm going to talk about right now, are these mating cards, it makes the user beautiful, right? Outwardly beautiful, beautiful hair, beautiful skin, everything about them is, I guess, whatever the image of perfection, right? This iconic beauty, whatever you want to call it. But you end up becoming this rotten, ugly, cold person inside. So is it really worth taking? But I guess we shall, we'll kind of get into that a little bit more specifically with one character in a minute. And then you have the chalice card. So this is a chalice. So, a chalice, a cup. This liquid, it's a truth serum. So you are getting the truth from these individuals. The more somebody fights the truth, the sicker they get, essentially acting like a poison. But the holder of these will be the betrayed by a friend if used without restraint, right? So the truth is not always the best thing to know.
Well, that is the truth will not always set you free. Sometimes the truth will get stabbed.
Well, and sometimes the truth needs to be withheld for certain reasons, right? There's a reason for it. Right. Then you have your Iron Gate cards, right? So you're going to be basically blissfully ignorant, essentially. You're going to be, even in times of turmoil, a struggle, or anything like that, you're going to be in this blissful serenity. But, you're going to, what is it that, ignorance is bliss? I mean, not really, right? What is it going to do in the end? It's going to steal years from, the holder. It's going to take away from you in your life and what that offers you. The Scythe card. So so this gives the beholder the power to control others, which I know some readers have an issue with the whole mind control aspect. So this would kind of play into that. That Scythe card, they could control others. So what it takes from the holder, though, is the physical pain in return. They're going to be physically painful in themselves. So they're causing something onto another person, but then taking that pain onto themselves. The mirror card. So mirror cards, you're going to be invisible, right? Nobody's going to be able to see you, which can come in handy, especially, on this quest, to find what they need, or anybody in general, right? But it could lift this veil between worlds and expose its holder to the ghosts, which we could kind of get into if you want.
Oh yeah, we will get into that one because I find that card extremely interesting.
Right. And the last two, we'll kind of go over those quickly, which I think these are also two really important cards, which are the Nightmare cards and the Twin Alders. So the Nightmare card allows the holder to speak into minds, right? So you're not controlling anybody, anything like that, but you're able to get into the mind of others and communicate with them. And nobody else is going to know. It's just the person you're inside their head and you. But the Nightmare could also reveal their deepest fears, right? So that is going to play mind tricks on the user itself. Then the Twin Alders. So this is the power to commune with the spirit of the wood, right? So this is a pretty crucial card in this quest and how everything's going to come together. I guess you could call it the make or break it card.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is nobody knows what the effects of using that card is because no one has seen it in over.
Yeah, nobody's using it, or
or if they are, nobody knows because nobody's seen it or heard of it for 500 years.
Well, and I guess the key thing about it is the power that it has with the spirit of the wood, which essentially is a big reason why everybody's in the situation that they're in right now is because of the spirit of the wood.
All right, so let's dive into that. So the spirit of the wood. Okay, so I think it's interesting. So the spirit of the wood, was almost like a I don't want to say gentle spirit, but or loving, but kind of along that line. Like it loved people coming to it. It loved the people worshiping it. It would grant magic, gifts to people who would come and worship it. Like you said, like the Olympic gods, right? Like they would bestow
Right.
stuff, to those who worship them. Same with the spirit of the wood. Well, the
They'd
spirit of
get
the wood got,
angry when they wouldn't come to them.
oh yeah, and I just and how the Shepherd King learned all this magic, went and goes and creates all these providence cards, which equal to 78, which, spoiler alert, there's 78 cards in a tarot card deck. So take the inspiration with the book as you like. But there's a lot of correspondence there. But he makes these cards, and these people no longer have to go to the spirit of the wood. They can just tap the card 3 times and use the gift, and then there. And that pissed the spirit of the wood
A little
off.
bit, they're going to take a piece of it. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The spirit of the wood.
So
pissed off.
obviously this is how the spirit of the wood is gaining what it wanted from these people who previously had praised it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is why, if I was the spirit of the wood, I would have done the same damn thing. Like it trapped the kingdom with a mist. And what's crazy is like over the years, the mist takes more and more, like it covers more and more of the kingdom. So it's basically doing this. It's starting to make that circle smaller and smaller. Okay, what happens when the whole kingdom is in the mist, right? And that's the big thing. Like right now, there are people who can walk in the mist if they have a certain charm, and it protects them from being taken from the spirit of the wood. Those who don't have a charm, they disappear and don't come back. We don't know where they go. We don't know if they're alive. We don't know if they're dead. We don't know.
Does this feed into her power of, this great mist thing? I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hoping we find out in book 2. Like, what happens to those that enter the mist? So, just to kind of go into that, yeah. I have a train of thought. I'll go there in a minute, but I want to circle back to the Providence cards. So they were created, that pissed the spirit of the wood off. But if we backtrack a little bit, Brittany, if you can choose a Providence card to use right now in 2023, which card would it be and why?
Oh, okay. So wealth is always nice, right? But
Yeah,
whatever.
it comes and goes.
And I know we said, who wants to know the future, because there's nothing you could do about it, right?
Right.
But honestly, I would probably still say glimpse of the future. Even though I wouldn't be able to change anything, at least I know what's coming at me.
Right. I for one would use the mirror card. And that's because ghosts don't freak me out. I am a believer in supernatural and spirits and all that. They don't freak me out. Bring it on. Like, I would rather when I want some alone time, let me use that card. Everyone leave me alone. I'm going away. Bye. I've disappeared. Husband can't find me. Kids can't find me. I'm chilling, and I have a cup of coffee and a book, and I have my peace and quiet. I would use the mirror card for that. I would love that. Just have that peace and quiet of just all that. And if I happen to see a ghost, oh well, I hear them in my house making noise, so why not see them?
Yeah,
Tell them to knock it off.
I think that just plays into how I am with I want to know what's going to happen, and kind of plays into how I always tend to like think about things, and I want to know what's coming. So that's just, yes, I may not be.
And that's a valid point too. I'm just like, I don't know if I would want to see the future, because I feel that every decision you do can change the future, right? But if like I see something very bad and I know I can't change it, I think I would go crazy. Like not knowing.
And I guess one I don't know, one way to look at it is you may not be able to change it, but if you know what's coming, can you use it to your advantage still? Right.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. So there's the two sides of the coins, right? You know, so I mean, you and I can talk about Providence cards and which ones we'd use all day. But you know, let's kind of go into a little bit more. So the one thing with the mist and the train of thought I had earlier that I want to go down is one of the characters, just for you. She's one of the Destriers, and she's a part of a secret group who is looking to collect one of each of the Providence cards to rid the kingdom of Blunder of the Mist and lift the curse. And you know, they went to, you know, remember when they went to go steal this Providence card from this dude on a path, yada yada. And they had a big old fight, and she's all of a sudden in the mist, but she does not have her charm anymore.
Right.
And she starts to go crazy. I mean, we're talking drunk white girl crazy. You know, you're like, what is she doing? She's like running off in this area. She's like doing stuff. And she's like hearing things. They are, you know, when they're able to kind of gain her back, they give her a charm.
Tormented almost.
Yeah, but she was hurt, she was injured. So the spirit is making these people do some crazy stuff that potentially harms them. I do find it interesting how those that were inflicted with the fever when they were kids don't need the charm to go into the mist.
Right. So which begs the question of, when you're looking at who's on whose side, characters, and what side that they're playing on, why they would want to get rid of these individuals, because obviously, since there's no effect on them with that respect, there's a reason why they want to get rid of them, right?
Yeah.
And what is that reason? What is it about them that they don't want these people around? What can they do and what can they accomplish because they're not affected?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you would think if the king was smart, then, you know, they would use these magical people or these people with these abilities to their advantage. Now, I granted some are probably dangerous.
But that which makes you question what is his motive? What is really his motive behind it? Why is it that he's against it?
Yeah.
You see what you know, so he's got some hidden agenda.
Yeah. So, you know, okay, so then let's go in deeper. So we have King Rowan, right? Rowan's a douche. His family are douches, except for Elm, who's his youngest son.
Right.
He is just
but he was also cast away, essentially. Like
mistreated. Yeah, they like treated him like scum.
Right.
And so I could see why he doesn't want any association with them. I mean, who would want to be with family that treats them like dirt? Let's go to the other friends and family who actually treat us like a human being. And I see why Elm, is on the side of, Raven. So Raven is the captain of the Destriers, right? He was inflicted with the fever as a kid. He survived, and his uncle, King Rowan, saw use of him because cards cannot be used on him. So that's like a really great thing. But if cards can't be used on him, then he can't use cards himself. And I believe, in One Dark Window, there's 3 cards that can be used on him and that he can use. And that's the Mirror card, the Nightmare.
And it's important to note, though, his important role in his position as captain and why the king relies on him and his strong abilities and everything. So he has a lot of pull and control in this status that he holds.
Yeah.
So that's important to know, especially when it comes to his cousin. Not Elm, but, the effect that he has. Right.
Oh, and the jealousy Hoth has of him. Ooh.
Right.
Oh my God. Okay, so Hoth is very jealous. And he's supposed to be this good-looking guy, but he's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's misogynistic, narcissistic. He's every istic. At this point, I mean, he checks every damn box. The guy is just off his rocker crazy. And he's so jealous of his cousin, and I don't see a rhyme or reason why, besides the fact that Raven has proven himself to
Right.
be a great fighter, because all the other Death Readers use a black card, except for Raven. He can't. The card does not work for him. So he, he's had to learn brute strength, and he's had to atone everything himself. He's relying on his physical.
Also, while trying to keep this hidden aspect of his life and his everything about his family and everything that they're needing to do, he has to keep this hidden. So he's having to play, both sides of the fence, and kind of outplay all these other characters, right?
Well, they all need to use the black card just to keep up with him, because Raven, he's a badass. He is just a badass. There's no other way to explain it. But he's very loyal to family, and he's very empathetic, which I know really shocked Elspeth. Is wow, this guy is empathetic
because she didn't know anything else.
Yeah, so she was terrified of the Death Readers. You guys, the fact that she never wanted to be around them. She was terrified that if they found out who she was, that they would kill her. And when he found out who she was like, I'm dead. Like, I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm accepting. And, as their, and I don't want to say relationship, because I'm not going to say it's a romantic type of relationship, but how their relationship developed, becoming friends and then potentially more. And kind of like the beginning of their love, I would say, is a deep understanding for each other, because they both survived the fever. They're having to keep it a secret. They know if others find out that they will be executed, and that they have to team up together to, find these cards and lift the curse. And Raven cannot find these cards without Elspeth, because Elspeth's, ability is to see Providence cards, even when they're hidden. As long as they're within a close proximity of her, she can see them. She sees the color glow, so she knows what card there is. And I love how, like, at the end of the book, like, they have 11 of the 12. They just need one more. How are they going to find the freaking card that no one has seen in 500 years?
Like, well, and
look out.
Right. I mean, and I think that's where, which we haven't really gotten to the ending of it yet.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's kind of where that's going to come into play, obviously. But with her losing herself, how they're going to be able to find it because of that, right?
Yeah. And she's really changed her character. So from the beginning of the book, she was more timid. I would say she was very introverted, not trustworthy of other people.
A product of what she was having to endure. I mean, she was really young when she got sick, and she's, she lost her mom, and then the stepmom, which is,
oh yeah,
I mean, it's your typical, evil stepmother situation. She's horrible, which, she said, and then she got shipped off to her aunt and uncle, and she's had to hide. Nobody really knows what's going on with her, what happened to her. They have no idea. So
they thought
she's had to live this very secluded, introverted life. And I think that I understand why some people maybe they didn't like her character so much because they felt like she was annoying or being childish at times or whatever the case may be. But I also think that's a product of her environment, right? She is the way she is because of what she's been like over the past several years.
Yeah. I mean, well, how would you feel if you have this large secret that if it gets out, you will be executed? Like, I mean, who wouldn't be timid and scared and never want to leave their house? Like, I mean,
and why would she trust, say, Raven in the beginning, which is why she was so shocked about him, was because essentially him and his men are responsible for these deaths, right? And bringing these people in and upholding this,
which leads
genocide of the individuals.
Do you have a theory? Okay, so obviously, if you guys have listened to this podcast, you've read the book. So why does the fever only affect children? Why does it come in the night? Why does only one kid so she was with her,
or only certain individuals? It's not everybody, right?
Yeah, so because she had it.
I mean, and my take on it is maybe this has something to do with bloodline or
Yeah.
you know where their family comes in, or maybe it has something to do with Elspeth's mother and that family history and Raven's family's history. Maybe it has something to do with
it has to. It has to, because I have no explanation for it. It doesn't make
right.
sense. And I'm very hopeful that this will be explained in the second book. I really hope so, because I'm like,
And
okay,
maybe this is just me hopefully wishing that something in there explains something, this connection between what really happened with her mother and how she passed. Honestly, I feel like there's something sinister involved, and maybe this is just my wheels turning and the evil stepmom being a part of it. I don't know. This is just me.
No. Okay. Go with me down this rabbit hole. What if her mother had survived the fever as a kid and she was inflicted and she had a magic ability? And we know that as people use their magic that were inflicted, it degenerates them and eventually kills them. We know that. We know that for a fact. So what if her mother died due to the degeneration? We don't know that. But I think it's a strong possibility. So let's see in book 2.
Well, and what is it with, and I feel like her father, maybe this is jumping ahead a little bit, but he knows more than what he puts out.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure, I feel like, I think that he knows that the stepmother, his current wife, is holding this tight leash on him and watching over him. I think he knows what's going on. I don't really know how he's going to play into this and how she's going to play it. And maybe we're completely wrong and they're not going to have any.
The evil stepmother, Lady Tremaine, as I'm going to call her. No, that's not her name, but that's what she reminds me of. There's something with the way she treats Elspeth. Like, obviously she's extremely jealous of Elspeth's mother, but why? She's not.
And I think it's because she knows something or something about her that can shift everything.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that the dad still has feelings for his first wife, right? I mean,
right.
You don't ever lose that love of your widowed partner. You don't. Like, when you're,
it's a typical, you know, dies. Right.
Yeah, like, it's not like you guys broke up. It's not like you divorced. His wife died and he ended up remarrying. Obviously, he never stopped loving his first wife. And I think that she is extremely jealous of that, because she knows in the back of her mind that she would not be where she is if his first wife was still alive. Like,
well, and the fact that he's protecting his daughter, right, from being found out.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, the fact that he was the captain of the Death Raiders and he hid his daughter. Yeah. I mean, that does show that, you know, the saying, blood is thicker than water, right? He's going to protect his daughter, even though he knows it's his obligation to find people who are infected and take them to the castle dungeon for execution. He knows that. That's his job. But obviously, the love for his daughter is worth him potentially being caught and executed for treason. And I think that speaks volumes of how much he truly loves his daughter, even though he's not allowed to
necessarily express that.
Exactly. But his actions, you know, even though he's had her there, he doesn't have her around a lot. I think he does it to protect
intentionally.
Her. Yes, because he knows what will happen if she's caught, even though it's been 11 years.
Which I think is why he came and he brought her, this kind of moving forward, but he did bring her the card. Like, he brought the one that she was seeking to her, and he didn't know that she was looking for it. I mean, maybe
I think he did. More.
And that's where I think there's something about him. Maybe he knows something that is going to play into later, or maybe it's all going to be explained later. I hope.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chance he figured out she was one of the highwaymen on the road that, you know, attacked the carts and stole the that other Providence card from another influential family. You know, when they came face to face, like, obviously she was dressed up, she was, you know, camouflage, like mask. But I think he deep down knew it was her, you know, and I think he's trying to do what's best, but while keeping a status and keeping everything, looking quote unquote normal and not raising suspicions. So I think the dad knows a lot more than we're being told. And I think in the next book, we're going to dive in more deeper to that. The one thing I think was great is the nightmare, so the nightmare, obviously he lives in Elspeth's mind. He talks to her in riddles. He annoys the hell out of her when he does his little tap, 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 clicking noise.
Right. Anything to get underneath her skin.
He really does. And he kind of reminds me of like a big brother that's like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Like he's in her mind, just like purposely annoying her. Right.
And I think it's, because I mean, if you really think about it, he's been in her mind since she absorbed this card at a really young age. Right. Like, so he's been there for a long time. He's kind of seen her grown with her.
He's been with her for more than half her life. So he's got to have some type of bond with her at this point. I mean, yeah, he's a douche to her, but I think he could be way worse, right? Like he could be way worse. He does.
Well, and I think as you've seen it, and he's kind of, I guess you could say, evolved. Yes. The more they've been together, and as it's kind of developed, like they've evolved, and I think it's not so much this like the other cards, right? There's no relationship built between the card and the user. But whereas she has a personal relationship with this nightmare, whereas these other users, they don't have relationships with their cards. There is nobody that she has developed or communicated with, nothing. And essentially there's a bonded relationship there, even if it's a little weird and sinister at times.
Yeah. So I know we have a little bit more than 10 minutes, but a little less than 15. So I want to let's discuss real quick Ione, because I am truly interested in seeing where she goes. Britt, did I lose you?
Okay, can you hear me now? I lost you for a minute.
Sorry, your video froze up the most funniest face. So I'll put a little emoji on her face, you guys, for when she was frozen. Your video keeps freezing. Your video. All right, you guys, her video keeps freezing.
Oh no.
She is in an area where she doesn't have the best internet. Brittany, definitely feel free to turn your video camera off if you'd like. That way you can at least, still have great audio for the rest of this. But kind of moving along, I definitely, oh, nope, she's back.
Oh,
okay.
I'm back. Okay.
Sorry, guys, technical difficulties when you
I have horrible internet here. I have horrible internet here. It's horrible.
All right. So as I was saying, let's dive into Ione a little bit, and then I want to just briefly let's wrap it up with like the nightmare and the Shepherd King and where the book left off and where we think it's gonna go. So I know we've got less than 10 minutes, or about 10 minutes. So let's just kind of get this going. So I am conflicted with Ione, which,
Ione is her cousin.
Yeah, is Elspeth's cousin. They've been besties since they were little. Ione, I think she's like 2-3 years older than Elspeth. So Elspeth really looks up to Ione, really loves Ione. Ione, very plain Jane.
Looks up to her, loves who she is, thinks of her as a strong individual. She wants to be her almost in a sense.
Well, Ione is the epitome of beauty on the inside. She's got a heart of gold. She is so kind and loving and sweet to everyone. And she may not be the most beautiful on the outside, but she's extremely beautiful on the inside. She's described as having blonde hair and a gap in her teeth and, just very petite, right? And, her father trades the nightmare card, gives it to the king in favor of basically his daughter being promised or betrothed to Prince Hawk. And when that happens, she's given a maiden card. And like she tells Elspeth she's never going to use the maiden card, or how do you know I'll use it? And then literally the next day she freaking uses it. I'm like, come on, girl.
And consistently using it. No, and it seems like there isn't a break in time either, or a relief within it. It's just she's becoming it. Right.
Yeah. So and we know the longer you use a card in the magic, the more it's going to affect you. So the more it's going to take that beauty that it's taken from the inside, you know, it's put it outside. It's made her absolutely gorgeous, but it's making her change on the inside to being a ruthless, cold-hearted person, and I don't like it. And that leads me into the question, do we think that Ione is using the card willfully on her own, or if she is being pressured and forced to use it?
And the nightmare is giving Elsbeth warning, saying, you know, you can't trust her, you know, she's this cold person. Basically, she's not who you think she is now. You can't look at her like you looked at your cousin at one point in time.
Yeah. And
but what I thought was
everything about these cards,
which I thought was interesting, right? Because even though she couldn't trust her, when it came down to Elsbeth needing to be protected to cover up a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? She covered for her, but what is the gain of that? Why?
Yeah. Well, and I have a theory why. She, you know, Ione, before she met Prince Hobbs, she's like, oh, it's a fairy tale. You know, oh, we're going to be engaged. We're going to get married. It's going to be bliss. And then she realizes this guy's a jerk. You know, he's self-centered. He does not care.
So she gets salty, right?
Yeah. Oh, beyond. Okay, talk about the petty is coming out her, but I love being it. I'm loving the petty side of it.
He needs it, right?
Well, I mean, because when they took the truth serum, you know, with the chalice or whatever, and I say truth serum lightly, and someone asked, like, Hoff, have you been faithful to Ione? And he's like, no. I mean, this guy's sleeping with everyone.
He doesn't care. I mean, he's like, whatever. I am who I am. I'm going to do what I want.
It's like an arrangement,
about it?
pish posh, you know, type of thing. And
right.
I think for her, just knowing that he did not see her before she used the Maiden card as worthy, and then she's using it, I think she's extremely bitter. But instead of her taking that out on everyone else, she's taking it out on Hoff. And that way is helping out other people because she wants to see Hoff.
She's going to throw his shit right back onto him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like super petty. No, I'm loving it. I just hope that they could kind of bring her back, you know, like her loving, free-spirited personality where she's super kind. I hope that in book 2, they find the Elder's cards, they join the deck, they do the ritual, whatever it is, and they free Blunder of the Mist. And I hope she can revert back to herself. Because if not, that would be a tragedy in itself.
Which let's just add this in there. So at the end of all of this, in order for Elsbeth to essentially save herself after being betrayed by her uncle, right? So she had to damn clock.
Her cuckoo clock, you guys. She hates that clock so much. All right. So just keep going.
I know, right? So in order for her to save herself, she had to basically submit. This is basically the final straw. The nightmare is going to take over her at this point, right? So in order for her to survive for the greater good and her sacrifice herself and
to save others that she loves.
And even though, you know, as much as she would want to be with Raven and this relationship they developed, in order for things to be better and to change, she has to sacrifice herself. So and this is where I think it's really important to kind of note how the nightmare and Elsbeth bonded, right? Other cards aren't going to make promises and hold true to the promise. They're going to just say, no, you use me, I'm going to take from you, right?
Yeah.
No, they communicated, they talked and said, hey, look, if I do this, just promise me that you do this for me. You help them and you help find these twin elder cards, you know. And
elder card. There's only one. There's only one.
Right. So, you know, help them break this curse, help him, be there for him, you know, save so-and-so, you know, like, you know, do this for me, take over what I was doing, accomplish what I was trying to. And he is.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is like, okay, yeah, he's doing it because he knows helping her helps himself. But I think at the end of the day is he has formed a bond with Elspeth, and he does not want to see her suffer. And he gives her that warning, hey, if I help you out right now, you're not coming back. So this decision is yours and yours alone. I cannot make this decision. And he's told her, I will help you, but this is the price, because all magic comes at a price. And he's given her those warnings again and again. Now, obviously, I don't think he's in it for himself, because if he was, he would never have given her the warning.
Right.
But he has, he's saying like, look, like, this is your price to pay for the magic that you were inflicted with. This is the consequences of asking for my help, because had she never asked him for help, she would be fine. But he's helped her in dire needs. And when I say dire, like life and death situations.
Right.
He basically, the fact that he makes her stronger and faster, and the monster
becomes this
essentially
beast,
comes out.
essentially.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously cares for her,
and also, and you can
think
see that also when Raven used the nightmare card on her and said, you need to get out of her head.
Yeah, I think it's like a father-daughter. I think he's, because she was very young when he went into her mind. So he's been with her as she's grown up, that it would be very hard for him to not think of her.
And maybe it's because of the loss of, say, his daughter. Right. So like
obviously the spoiler.
His loss of his daughter, maybe he's gaining a little piece of humanity back from what he lost as,
so let's dive into this. Did you, okay, obviously if you guys are listening to this or watching this, you've either read the book or you don't mind spoilers. So either way, we're going to discuss it. I mean, I did not see, I kind of did. I was like, oh, I think this is who this would be. The fact that the nightmare is the shepherd.
Right.
That was his curse from the spirit of the wood for doing what he did. And, he was murdered, him and his entire family. The fact that they were murdered by the Rowans. So the Rowans are not the true heirs to the kingdom. They basically killed the king and all his family so they could take over. And no wonder he hates the Rowan family line.
Right.
Too. Because they didn't just kill him. They killed his children, his little kids, his wife. And they are trapped and they are stuck. They're stuck at that rundown, ruined castle where there's the one room with no way in except for one dark window, hence the title of the book. And they're trapped there and they're waiting for their father. And he hasn't been able to get to them. So imagine being trapped, sucked into a card and being trapped for 500 years. Obviously, you're going to be twisted and warped in mind by yourself. And after 500 years, someone touches your card and they absorb you into their mind. Your humanity,
which just so happens to be a child, which imagine if it was an adult though, right? Like it probably would have had a different scenario. It probably wouldn't have, there wouldn't be any innocence there or anything for him to kind of grasp onto, and he probably would have completely lost himself, right?
Yeah. I think that's why it's more like he's viewing her as family, is that he lost his family. He could not do anything because he was killed first and then his children.
So with that, in the end, let's just say they get all these cards together and they could break the curse.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is potentially a way for him to give Elspeth back and him to retain his own identity?
I do. I think that the spirit of the wood would really, she's going to, or she or he, sorry, they, because spirit of wood is a non-gendered. They will, and I always just say she because I think Mother Nature, right? But the spirit of the wood, they will release the curse on Blunder, which essentially is releasing the curse on, the nightmare / shepherd king.
Right.
That's what they're going to do. And I think once the shepherd king's spirit is released, he'll be able to rejoin his family and everything. And I think as long as Elspeth's body is not in mortal danger, I think she can come back. I think she's,
or she doesn't completely lose herself.
Yeah.
In whatever mind scenario she's in, right?
I think she's kind of trapped in her own mind, in like a little back room of her mind. That's where she's trapped. She cannot get out. to use her body, see, and do everything. She's kind of in the dark within her own mind. I think that's where she's really at. And the nightmare is like, he's basically taken the wheel, right? He's the one that's leading the show. But obviously we know she's trapped, because when Raven goes into the nightmare, into Elspeth's mind, or now the nightmare's mind, he can't make contact with her. I think she's locked up and she's caged away. Kind of how the nightmare was in the card. The nightmare was trapped in this card. Elspeth is trapped in her mind, in her body. And I think as long as her body is fine and it's not mortally wounded, I think she can come back. But who knows? Maybe the author's going to go more of a martyr route. I mean, it does say maiden monster martyr. So,
Well, I mean, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying, is the ending wasn't necessarily what we might have expected from typical books, within the genre, right? Like, so, maybe some people would disagree with me. Maybe, I'm sure. But I just think
a lot of people disagree with us.
Right.
Well, I really think that, and let me just wrap this. I think the Shepherd King / Nightmare at this point, I mean, they're one and the same, right? I think he's going to do everything he can to lift the curse, not only to benefit himself, but to save Elspeth, because he was not able to save his family. And I think for him, it's also a redemption. That if he can save Elspeth along with the kingdom, he will, deep down, he will feel like he's been redeemed, because he was the cause of all of this. And I think for him, he's seeing, the weight of all of his actions, and it's taken a toll. And that's the only way he could come back from it and be reunited, is to redeem himself. And a part of that is saving Elspeth and saving the kingdom of Blunder, while also taking down the Rowans, who just happened to kill him and his family. Because so there is going to be vengeance. I think he's going to go balls to the walls, and he's going to make the Rowans wish that they never did what they did. Because before they killed him, he was trying to find all the cards to cure this, and the kids that were infected, they weren't taken to the dungeon and killed. They had physicians who were trying to help nurture them and heal them and, work with them. And then when the Rowans took over, it was like, no, these people need to die. Like, they're a plague on society. And so it's like him and King Shepherd and King Rowan, they had different.
Obviously, a deal was struck somewhere. Was it between the Rowan family and the Spirit of the Mist?
And that's a good point too. Who knows? I think we're going to find out in Two Twisted Crowns, which I'm excited, and I can't wait till October 2023. I I need to know how this story ends. I think
until then we'll probably be reading a bunch of other ones, but
yes. Well, Rachel Gillig is definitely now one of my favorite authors. This is her first and only book that she's put out so far. I am beyond excited to see what she does. I love her writing style.
Did a really great job with it. I think that she was able to build onto this world, right? Like this world she's created. I think that she was able to master this with the rhymes and the riddles and this mystic magical providence card. I think she was able to create a different world. And I know that there are quest series out there, this whole gothic quest or, fantasy quest series. I know that there are a lot out there. There's a lot of different books out there that you could say, it's kind of like this, but I think hers is probably a little more complex than what others have been. And maybe it was harder for some readers to kind of stay in line with and wrap their heads around, which maybe I will say this, maybe it would have been beneficial for their within the book to have like a Providence card to explain what it is to the readers, to kind of keep them on track of the magical cards and how that plays into it. I think it might have probably helped some readers.
Yeah, I think like a little section in the back of the book that you could go to where it has the Providence cards and the details and, just like a little just a little bit of information, because having to scan through the book to find all the details. Okay, what does this card do again? What does that card do again? What color does it, show? Like you're
Because
having
it's
to
a
ping
lot.
pong
It's a lot of
back and
it is
forth.
a lot of information, but
Yeah,
it's a world within itself. And I think she was able to kind of have
yeah,
develop a complex world, right?
yeah. Well, that's the only advice that I think is really needed from you and me is please add a section of what the Providence cards are, what they do, and everything.
Yeah.
For the readers, we have them. We have the details. We have all that information. But we went into this reading this book. Okay, let's remember this. Write this down. Let's keep notes, like things like that. But not everyone's doing that. And so I think, it would be great. You do have like some authors, like if it's like Lord of the Rings type of thing, where they have a map, right? And so you can say, oh yeah, this is where that's at and relevant to this and things like that. But I think if she had like a little section in the back that just literally just went over the Providence cards and things like that.
Especially with such a long break between the two books, like as people are waiting,
Yeah.
maybe to become more acquainted on how they work, or how maybe some cards might affect the others and how they interact with each other.
Yeah. So and we'll post some helpful guides on our Instagram, you guys. So please follow us Instagram. Follow us here on YouTube, on the podcast service you use. I know we're looking to upload on Apple and Spotify first, and then we may expand to other podcast streaming services. But for now, we're just starting with the basics. It's our first episode. As we do these, we'll get more fine-tuned and maybe have a little bit more in-depth details.
We'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is just us just talking about the book and certain things that we liked, didn't like, things like that. So there's really no rhyme or reason. We love to talk about the book.
Well, I mean, and again, this kind of all started just because this is a way for us to kind of hold to I don't want to say maintain, because we're not maintaining our relationship, Michelle.
No,
but it's just to keep us connected, because I am so far away. I've been gone for a while too. So it kind of helps us coordinate and schedule and just kind of.
Well, and honestly, it adds a little bit of we time, you and I, away from the family. Like, and we could bond over a book. We could read a book, we discuss it. And then, so like I picked this book, she's going to pick the next book, Sometimes we read series, sometimes we read standalones. So we'll be going over that. We have read a few series that we will discuss.
And we hated.
Yes, one that we absolutely hated. We will go into those. So please bear with us. And if you would like to join conversations, hop on over to our Instagram and join in.
Or if you have something you want us to read and kind of give you our thoughts on it. I mean,
book recommendations.
What we do.
Definitely.
We work, we take care of our kids, we read. I mean, I go on quite a bit of vacation, but.
Yeah. And we're not professional book reviewers. We don't do blogs. We don't do this. This is just two moms who read, who are discussing the books, giving our unbiased, unpaid opinion. So take with
a grain of salt.
Yep, with a grain of salt. Anyways, you guys, so I believe we're done. We are out of time. We actually went over a little bit. So we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you in our next episode, which should be in a week or so.
Yeah.
All right. All right,
well,
everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Listening.
Yes. All right. Bye.